We are live 364 days a year.
What are we doing here?
If Dom turns at SummerSlam, I'm shaving my moustache off. I've told you, if that happens, it's going. My lip is cold because of a stupid bet that I made with YouTube.
Oh, good.
Wrestle's better than Daniel Bryan Daniels. Better than Okada.
How do you not get crispy after Monday Night Raw?
Good evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is a Sunday, and there's been no premium live event or pay-per-view on, which means it's a Sunday fun day, and we have a very fun game to play again today, because it is the return of Wrestling Heaven, Hell, and Purgatory, so it is going to definitely be a fun one. We got a couple of comments out of the gate. We got Fernando Zayas over on YouTube saying that he is very excited for another fun day and another game of Heaven or Hell. But joining me today as the contestants on this game, we firstly have a man who has taken part in multiple of these in the past. He's won some and he's lost some. It's Ignacio. How are you, Ignacio?
Well, I'd like to add that I've lost some because of great bias between you and Clark. You all have conspired against me enough. But, man, it's a great day. A little bit rainy here in Texas. But, I want to comment on yesterday's crew. What an excellent take on the SmackDown show yesterday. And I'm excited. AJ Lee is back. Just when you think WWE is getting a little bit dull, they throw another chink in the chain. So that was very exciting to see. I'm glad she's back. She looked great.
Absolutely. It was fantastic to have the return of AJ Lee yesterday. We're on Friday now on SmackDown, and they did do a fantastic job covering it on yesterday's show. We got DCX Warlord in the comments as well. Shout out to you. But also joining us, facing Ignacio today, we have a debuting on Sunday Fun Days Wrestling Heaven or Hell. Angie, how are you, Angie?
I am doing really well. I'm looking forward to today's Sunday Fun Day, and hopefully we can keep things nice and professional, and hopefully we won't have to go to blows.
When Ignacio is around, I don't know. It could go either way. But before we get into it, let me quickly explain the rules in case you guys haven't seen a Wrestling Heaven or Hell show before. We have 3 topics: Wrestling Heaven, Wrestling Hell, and Wrestling Purgatory. Wrestling Heaven means both contestants are going to try and argue something they once sent to Wrestling Heaven. Then I'm going to pick the best one based on the debates that they have made. And then whoever wins that round, and then it's a best of 3, so whoever wins Purgatory then in the end will end up being the winner. But today we are doing, like we've done in the past, a little bit of a spin on this, because for each one, there is going to be a specific topic. For Wrestling Heaven, it's going to be women's wrestling. For Wrestling Hell, it's going to be John Cena's career. And for Wrestling Purgatory, it is going to be something from AEW. So we do have a lot of fun topics to get into. But let's start with Wrestling Heaven. Ignacio, what do you want to send from women's wrestling to Wrestling Heaven?
I was there at WrestleMania 38. Oh, I'm sorry, it was WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, where Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks had that incredible 3-way match for what we know today is the WWE Women's title. That was the event where they transitioned the Divas title to the WWE Women's title, and Charlotte Flair became the quote unquote new WWE Women's Champion of this era, I guess you could say. It was just a reaffirmation that the women's division had arrived, and I think that was the match that convinced everybody, not only fans, but I think everybody within WWE, that, like, you know what? Yeah, they can main event WrestleMania. I think that was the start of it. where everybody was convinced that these women are good enough where they can headline a show. And, everything else before then, Divas era, even though the Divas era gave us, AJ Lee and Natalia, they were kind of within a window in limbo where the women's division still kind of wasn't taken very seriously, or they never mentioned, nobody ever mentioned AJ Lee main eventing WrestleMania. Nobody ever mentioned Natalia main eventing WrestleMania. Nobody ever, God forbid, the Bellas main event WrestleMania until this group of women came along. And I think that match convinced them that, like, yes, now we got the right group of women now we can have them or take them into consideration. We can take them seriously, give them more TV time, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that match launched what we regard now today as the women's revolution in the modern day, the way the women are looked at nowadays, modern day women's wrestling. I think that match was the launching pad. So I'd put that in wrestling heaven.
A lot of people often talk about how bad that WrestleMania was, WrestleMania 32. But I'm going to be honest, that match along with the ladder match was amazing.
It was. The ladder match was good too, if you like ladder matches. But I will say that was a good ladder match. And I don't like multiple person matches as well. But that was one of the more better three-way matches overall that I had seen. And that WrestleMania was plagued with injuries. So if the women were going to make an impact at any time, it was at that WrestleMania, and they pulled through. I think it might have been the match of the day. That was still during the time WrestleMania was one night, but I think that match stole the show for that WrestleMania.
Absolutely, it is. It's one of the matches I always say to people is actually the most underrated. So fantastic shout. And yeah, I want to be honest, that is a really, really great pick to open things up. But what about you, Angie? What do you want to send from women's wrestling to wrestling heaven?
Oh, this I was actually doing a lot of research for, so I'm just gonna crack open my book real quick. And so what I'm going to send to Wrestling Heaven is the 2018 Royal Rumble, specifically the women's Royal Rumble, of course, with Asuka winning the Royal Rumble that year. I honestly think that it was a time for not only just adding to a list of firsts for women's wrestling as far as for WWE, but also the fact that we were giving more of a chance to highlight how good the Japanese wrestlers are, because let's be fair, we don't have a lot of those in WWE, at least not ones that really got the highlight. But honestly, it was a good year for Japanese wrestling, especially that Royal Rumble. But that match from beginning to end, all the way to Asuka getting a chance to win it, honestly made it to where we could actually be able to celebrate what women's wrestling has officially become, especially for the fact that almost 10 years prior to that, we were having matches being decided between bikini contests and evening gown matches and everything. We've come a long way, and it was only a whole decade.
That is another fantastic shout. You guys are making my job very, very difficult right now, because there's two fantastic shouts and undoubtedly two matches which kind of went, I don't want to say under the radar, but aren't really talked about that much when it comes to the women's evolution and how much they both did. But they both did do a lot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it back to you guys to argue why your point should go into Wrestling Heaven instead of the other person's point. Ignacio, I'll kick things off with you, and we'll stay on this camera. Why should that triple threat match from WrestleMania 32 go into Wrestling Heaven instead of the 2018 Royal Rumble?
I just think that given the platform and given the opportunity that those women pulled through, and that it convinced the higher ups, the administration, Vince at the time, Triple H, that They had something, you know what, that they had something in the women's division, but not only that they had something from NXT. You know what I mean? Because they all came up from NXT a year and 18 months prior. So that's like, you know what? These were the real representatives of true class that came out of NXT. And now we got something here, not only in the women, but that helped them shine some light on the men too. And along with Sami Zayn and KO and all that stuff. But I mean, you know, they're the ones that shined light on NXT, the brand as a whole. So I think it brought more attention to NXT as a whole.
That is actually a brilliant point as well. Of course, 3 out of the 4 horsewomen, they, you know, pretty much all 3, what was it, like 6 months before, if that, really got called up to the main roster, and they got elevated into that main event scene very, very fast. That's another point which I don't think is actually spoken about enough in terms of how quickly they were just chucked into the deep end almost. To your point, on a WrestleMania, which had a lot of issues because there were so many injuries going around. So a brilliant shout there. But what about you, Angie? Why should the 2018 Rumble go in instead of that triple threat?
So I'm going to take Ignacio's point and ramp that up to 11 and say that the Royal Rumble got a chance to debut not only just the call-ups from NXT, but also the ones that were already there and not given a chance on the main roster, and of course, celebrating the legends that came before that helped pave the way for women's wrestling.
Another brilliant point. You guys really have both made this job very, very difficult today. DCX Warlord suggesting Becky 2 belts going to Wrestling Heaven. That is another great shout as well.
There's a lot that's actually happened for women's wrestling in WWE. Like I mentioned before, It was a decade before the Royal Rumble, the first ever Royal Rumble for the women's. Like a decade before that, it was just mud wrestling matches, bikini contests, and in evening gowns. Where were we being taken seriously? The women were not taken seriously in a way that was actually supposed to be seen. And so that's why I went with the Royal Rumble, because of the fact that all of the women are being seen, not just the ones that the company thought would be profitable.
Wow. I'm going to be honest, both of you guys have made points which are Wrestling Heaven worthy, right? But of course, only one can go into Wrestling Heaven today. And as you guys always know, on this show, I always have some sort of lever that I use. And I use a different object every single time as the lever. And what am I going to use today? I'm going to use this mini desk arcade, which I have for some reason, right? So this is the lever for today, guys. A Christmas stocking filler from a couple of years ago. And like I said, both of them could go to Wrestling Heaven. Both of them have merits to go to Wrestling Heaven. But at the end of the day, I am kind of thinking on this one, which one happened first. Because the one which happened first, I do think helped pave the way for the one which happened later. And that was the triple threat match at WrestleMania 32. There was one point you mentioned, Ignacio, and that was the fact that it stole the show. And to be honest, I agree. And that was the first time that women's wrestling stole the show on a WrestleMania card. It's happened since, but it hadn't happened before. So that is a great... It's actually starting to make some beeping sound now, this arcade. I don't know how to stop it. But for that reason, the triple threat match at WrestleMania 32 is going to Wrestling Heaven. Ignacio, you have won the first round there. DCX Warlord says it's not mini, it's an average-sized arcade.
I like how the one that got the win is the one that said there should be less segments, but I digress.
That's a good point in itself. But up next, we've got Wrestling Hell. And this is going to be something from John Cena's career. And the one thing I've taken off the table from both the contestants today is the heel turn, the heel run. Because, of course, when we did this a couple of weeks ago, I think it was Clark sent it to Wrestling Hell already. So it is already in there. But, Ignacio, I'm going to put it to you again first. What do you want to send from John Cena's career to the depths, the deep depths of Wrestling Hell?
Man, I don't know. I was trying to think of man, there was just so much that was running through my mind when I was trying to think about this. Man, I want to. It kind of goes and ties into. I saw your analysis on Cena the other day, and it just kind of on his run and the heel run and stuff like that. And yeah, I just was trying to feed off of that and think about what he could have done to help somebody out along the way. And I really think that he probably could have, and I don't know if he did, he probably could have, but he probably could have advocated more for, putting Bray Wyatt over at WrestleMania 30. Because at the time, I think Bray needed it. And of course, he didn't. I think at that point, John Cena was, what do they call it? He was burial proof, impervious to burial. You know what I mean? He didn't need the win. I think Bray needed it more because he was, I don't know, 6 months and 9 months into his main roster run, and he had some momentum built, and the Wyatt family had some momentum on him, and I think that kind of slowed him down a little bit. And then what slowed down Wyatt even more was the following year he lost to The Undertaker. So I think if they would have given Bray the win, I think that would have built up his momentum instead of slowing him down, and that could have led it to even a bigger match, more marketable with The Undertaker at Mania. And I think maybe giving him the win Undertaker at Mania could have done some good too. So that was the catalyst for a lot of stops and starts for him. I think if they just would have put Cena would have advocated more, he would have put Bray Wyatt over at WrestleMania, I think he could have had a lot better run, at least in that early part of his career. This was a hard one because there's just, Cena's been around for so long, and there's just as much as good that he probably did. There's a lot of better stuff they could have done with them. So I'm pretty sure that maybe Angie probably has a better one than this one, because I was just trying to think about it. There was like 10,000 of them running through my mind.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that is a good one. Cena beating Bray was something which annoyed the hell out of me at the time, because it did feel like Bray Wyatt could be the next, I don't want to say the next Undertaker, but kind of have the next streak type thing on WrestleMania. A lot of people wanted that to be the case. They wanted him to beat Cena and then go on to eventually take on Undertaker and defeat Undertaker. Of course, Taker's streak was already over by this point, but even still, and of course that didn't happen. Cena won, and a lot of people were there. In fact, sorry, it was the same show, of course, wasn't it? That was the show where their streak ended, 30. So a lot of people wanted Bray to be the one to end up beating the streak. And obviously that did not happen, because Bray's streak ended before Brock ended the streak later on in the show. Fantastic shout, Ignacio. But Angie, what about you? What do you want to banish to wrestling hell?
So I've got quite a few of them, actually. But if I had to go ahead and narrow it down to one, because there were a lot, and that was just going off at the top of my head. Like, for instance, there was the whole name changing of his moves, the FU going into the attitude adjustment, and then of course you got the 5-knuckle shuffle. Jeez. Then of course there's the burial of the Nexus, because let's be fair, he should have won that match in he shouldn't have had to win at SummerSlam. SummerSlam of 2010. Sorry, I had to check my notes for a quick minute. No, he didn't need that win. He could have just went ahead and helped with, putting over the Nexus, but I digress. But the one that got under my skin the most, because what even was the storyline, was the Embrace the Hate storyline with Kane and Zack Ryder. Like, so much went wrong with that I almost ran out of paper. First, it was already bad enough that this was around the time where we were getting the "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chants and everything, because, Super Cena. But it was also the fact of the really corny mind game thing that they were trying to do with Kane. And also we all know that the melodrama always happens for wrestling as it is, but they were laying that one on thick to the point it was almost unwatchable. And also let's not forget the fact that John Cena during this time, like, sure, it was, something that was supposed to, I'm assuming was supposed to go with the storyline of face Cena doing very heelish things, like for instance taking Zack Ryder's girlfriend, at kayfabe girlfriend Eve Torres, and then also making it to where Zack Ryder ends up being sacrificed off the stage while he was in a wheelchair and all bandaged up and everything, looking like that one fish that was saying that he had glass bones and paper skin and everything from SpongeBob. So yeah, a lot of that, and it just kind of didn't go anywhere. Just like how this heel turn did.
You are right, and I'm going to be completely honest, right? This is something which I just seem to have shut out of my head, because until you mentioned it, I honestly haven't thought about this in like 5 years at least. I mean, it not only was a rubbish storyline and was just awful to watch at the time, but it killed Zack Ryder for a long way. I mean, basically killed his entire WWE run.
If you wanted to talk about burials, that was definitely one of the main ones. Like, there was a lot of times where there were certain moments in John Cena's career where he could have went ahead and put somebody over, and then it didn't happen. Why? He didn't need most of those wins. He really didn't. And and you could just pretty much take the whole Super Cena character and just chuck it down to the 9th level of hell and be perfectly fine.
You're not wrong at all on that one. And I mean, there's two fantastic options I've got once again here. Angie, I'm going to pass it to you first this time. Why do you think that belongs in Wrestling Hell more than Cena beating Bray Wyatt?
It put together all of the things that was just wrong with the John Cena character. It was the not taking the L's because we have to be, Superman and everything, burying upcoming talent, and if anyone was going to be, and let's also not forget of the fact that there was potential to turn him heel. There was all of the signs to turn him heel, and then of course they didn't do it. I think like the only time where John Cena was ever really even remotely close to being heel was during the Thugonomics days, but I digress. So overall, I think the embrace the hate just took all of the worst parts of the John Cena character and showed it on full display, 4K, and showed us exactly what was really wrong with it.
Very compelling argument. What about you, Ignacio?
I just think that really that match with Bray Wyatt was the reinforcement of everybody's mentality or way of thinking that John Cena didn't want to put over people, because I mean, Bray Wyatt was set up or anticipated to be a big star, and Cena could have gave him that launching pad, or with Cena they could have given him that launching pad, and they just didn't. And we don't know what really happened, but at that time I think Cena had a lot of clout, and I think he could have just stood up and said, I was like, hey, let's just put the guy over and let's build some momentum with them and let this guy be the next top, or one of the next top heavyweight baby heels. And and they did it next year with Rusev, if you want to talk about building on that history. But I just think it was probably the very first reaffirming everybody's mentality that they don't want to let this guy go. They want to ride him even further and as long as they can, instead of trying to build up a big heavyweight heel that can face off with a big heavyweight baby face, which at the time was Daniel Bryan.
Again, good points. Very, very good points. But I'm going to summarize here. I'm going to get the arcade back out because I have made my decision. Because at the end of the day, both of these things once again belong in wrestling hell. But in the case of Bray Wyatt, that storyline was still very entertaining. The match itself was still decent, and Bray Wyatt ended up being fine. Did he need the win? Absolutely. Should he have had the win? Absolutely. But in the case of the Embrace the Hate storyline, not only did it not achieve anything, but it was also just dreadful to watch. And it literally did just kill all the momentum Zack Ryder had as well. He was just like, got caught in it, basically. And it was just all a mess. So, without further ado, the Embrace the Hate storyline is going to Wrestling Hell, and it is 1-1. Congratulations, Angie.
Thank you very much.
We've got Fernando saying Cena, Hogan, lol, blame Vince for all of it. I mean, it is the booking. It's not actually neither of those things on Cena himself.
We can blame Vince for a lot of things, but I think that would be a video for another time.
Yeah. Definitely want to eventually get into there. DCX says John Cena burying Alex Riley. Another good shout. And Logan Paul.
Oh my God, I forgot about him. I almost forgot about Alex Riley. Oh dear.
Oh, yeah. Well,
It was not
burial after burial.
Whatever happened to him? Honestly.
Actually, I can tell you that. He was actually on episode. No, he did not. Well, at least I don't think he did.
I don't.
He was on an episode of Glow, though. He was one of the like. He was one of.
No, he's still alive. He's still alive.
Okay, that's what I thought. He was on an episode of Glow as like a character that was supposed to be like. I guess he was supposed to be almost like that working man persona, and I almost didn't recognize him. And I squinted at him, and I was like, "Why does that look like Alex Riley?" Then I look it up. Oh, it's Alex Riley.
Oh my gosh. Well, he is alive, but he must be doing acting now or something because he is certainly not wrestling. But up next, well, actually, before we get into Wrestling Purgatory, I need to promote a couple of things. Firstly, I need to promote the Wrestling Republic Undercard channel. It's the home of all our clips from the daily broadcast and all our podcasts, as well as sold separately, Grappling for Positions, and more shows coming soon as well. Make sure you are subscribed over there, and make sure to hit the notification bell as well. Daily videos over on that channel. But something else which I need to promote, and I don't have a graphic for it, is the Wrestling Republic podcast. Weekly, every single Monday, a new episode will come out tomorrow, where me, Clark, and Shad discuss our take of the week, as well as the biggest news story of wrestling in the week. And this week, of course, it was AJ Lee's return. The episode gets very, very heated tomorrow, so make sure you guys check that out. It will be coming out about, it might actually be a little bit earlier tomorrow. It'll probably come out about 2 p.m. Eastern time. No, 2 p.m. UK time, which would be 2 p.m. flipping heck, guys. These time zones are driving me crazy. 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, I believe, is when it's going to be coming out tomorrow. So you can make sure to check it out pretty much as soon as you guys have woken up. But up next, let's talk about Wrestling Purgatory. Actually, I'm going to chuck very, very quickly. I'm actually going to chuck time zones into Wrestling Purgatory because, like, I can't do this math anymore. It's just, it's too much. But Angie, kick us off this time. What do you want to send to Wrestling Purgatory from AEW? It can be anything from the 6-year history of the brand. What do you want to send?
Oh boy. I'm gonna be such a hypocrite for this. But if there's anything that I would actually be able to send to more so a purgatory, Wrestling Purgatory, would be the man who helped get AEW off the ground, winded up actually, speaking of Cena, wind up having the same treatment as John Cena as well, especially with the fans, only to turn around, come back to WWE at WrestleMania to face Seth Rollins. I'm gonna say the AEW run of Cody Rhodes. God, that hurts so much. But when it comes down to it, Cody started off as just someone who was just tired of WWE's nonsense and everything, and then decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and start my own thing. And there were a lot of times where the storylines during that time was more aimed at being like, haha, WWE, we're able to get off the ground and work just fine. We're the better show, that kind of thing. But of course, there were a lot of times where, just like with John Cena, there were times where Cody winded up getting wins that weren't really necessary. There were a lot of times where it got to a point where the crowd was getting to a point of just starting to boo him and like have a negative feel for the American Nightmare. So once it got to a point where Cody was stepping away from AEW, it seemed like a sigh of relief kind of went over the fans. And it's to a point where it's like, it didn't work here, but now that he's got a chance to have his run over in WWE, maybe things would have been a little bit different, only for it to kind of almost be the same. So I'm kind of so purgatory.
Do you know what? That is a really, really great take. And yeah, I mean, as well, when he booked himself in that match to lose, so he could never challenge for the world title again. I mean, from that point, the run was doomed. Because to your point, he was getting all these wins. He was winning the TNT title over and over and over again. But there was nowhere else for him to go because he ruled himself out of challenging for the world championship. It is still one of the most baffling booking decisions I have seen in the history of AEW. In fact, probably the most baffling booking decision in the history of the company. And it became very, very clear, very, very fast. It was a mistake. And maybe they could have turned him heel. Maybe that is, obviously, purgatory is for something to be improved. Maybe they could have turned him heel and had him break that promise to the fans. Maybe that's what could have done it. But they had to do something because for sure it was not, good how it went down. Zach Minger is saying, Happy National Beer Lovers Day. I mean, what a day that is. DCX Warlord is saying the Learning Tree. That's a great shout. But, Ignacio, what do you want to send to Purgatory?
I'm going to say, the booking. I'm going to say Tony Khan because, he's made it very clear that, he does the booking. And, I wish Clark was here because he'd probably make more sense of this. But for our fans in the U.S. and that watch football, there's a Netflix documentary on the Dallas Cowboys and their history. And Dallas Cowboy owner Jerry Jones made his money in the oil business to buy the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones didn't know anything about running a football team. He was a football fan. He played college football, but he didn't know anything about running a football team. So he gets his family to run the Dallas Cowboys. And of course, they were very unsuccessful the first season. He brings in his friend, Jimmy Jones, who is a very well-known college head coach, national championships, etc. They struggled the first year together, but then ended up winning 3 Super Bowls in the 90s. And I think if Jimmy Johnson could have stayed with the Cowboys, Jerry Jones let him go later on. I think if Jimmy Johnson would have stayed with the Dallas Cowboys, they would have won 5 or 6 Super Bowls in the 90s and probably been regarded as one of the greatest teams of all time. Compare that to Tony Khan's run. Tony Khan didn't know anything about running a wrestling company. But at the beginning, AEW had a lot of success because they were telling good, interesting stories, along with having good matches. And I think that's because Tony Khan was listening to people, at least to get the company started, on how the booking should be conducted, who should go over, who should be the champion, etc., etc. And I think along the way, Tony Khan just started listening to the right people. I think Tony Khan needs his Jimmy Johnson. Tony Khan needs his booking head coach. And there's plenty of qualified people, if not within AEW, within industry, that aren't working right now, or maybe working for other companies that would be glad to take over the book. But Tony Khan's, unwilling to give up the reins. And I find AEW very, very uninteresting right now. The matches are very elongated and boring. Compare them to WWE matches, and this is going to set a lot of people off. But I think WWE, their matches, especially on pay-per-views, are just as good, or if not better, than AEW matches when it comes to pay-per-view. It's just a more entertaining product, and I think Tony Khan he doesn't know how to entertain the fans. He doesn't know how to put on a good show. He doesn't know how to tell stories, and I think he needs a good head coach. He needs somebody to go in there, take the reins, and turn this thing around. And I think in the long run, AEW will be more successful and profitable. I think right now, the only thing keeping AEW alive is Tony Khan's a billionaire, and he can pump in as much money as he wants to it. He can keep it running. Even if it is losing money, he can keep it running for as long as he wants, because he's willing to put as much money. He's willing to go broke to keep AEW in existence. That's why it's viable right now.
Well, I'm going to disregard a couple of comments you made there, especially about him never being able to put on an entertaining show. Come on, there would be a lot of really entertaining AEW shows. There have been, but the other comment...
At the beginning, yeah, I said at the beginning. I think their downfall... I think their November show, what's it called? The pay-per-view? Full Gear. I think Full Gear 2021, when Hangman won the title from Omega, I think it was downhill from there. I think that's really peak.
Wow. Okay, a massive hot take on that one.
Excuse me if I possibly might be misremembering this, but didn't we just have Forbidden Door?
We did.
And isn't Forbidden Door an AEW pay-per-view?
It is.
Ignacio, whatever you had, can I have some? Because I don't think we were watching the same thing, if that was the case.
Well, what was so special? What was so special about Forbidden Door?
Do you want the list?
What was so special?
Hold on, let me see. Do I have the list?
Oh, wow.
Because I'm about to pull a whole Chris Jericho. You want the list?
We're going to get the list.
Sure. I mean,
you want the list?
What was so great?
Let's get it.
All right. Hold on. Let me just let me just break this out real quick. Let's first talk about the fact that the progression of how good the matches were. If they managed to go ahead and take the weaker matches and make them the first ones, and then progressively they got a lot better. Let's also not forget about the fact that they were able to go ahead and take a women's match and give it the highlight that it definitely deserved. And let's also not forget about that finish. Let's also not forget about the finish to the whole thing. That the way that they went ahead and sent off people who were supposed to be off screen for a while, the fact that they managed to make that storytelling, even for those who are casual watchers of AEW like me, be able to understand on exactly what was supposed to be happening for those storylines and why they winded up ending and why they wind up going with actions that were necessary for the storyline as a show don't tell.
AEW
Honestly,
Would you like a more broken down version of that?
AEW is the worst wrestling company, period, that caters to the worst wrestling fans, period, in the worst generation of wrestling fans, period. These are the same wrestling fans. These are the same wrestling fans that for years, this is the generation of wrestling fans that started watching wrestling in 2000 and 2003, 2004, early 2000s, that were clamoring for another billionaire to start a wrestling company because they were tired of what they were seeing on WWE TV. So that's what they did, is another billionaire started a wrestling company. It started off okay and has made nothing but a mockery and embarrassment of the wrestling business.
Right. I'm going to summarize. I've made my decision, right? And there's a couple of things I want to clear up very quickly first. Firstly, Angie, you made some brilliant points about Forbidden Door just then. And I was at that show. I was doing media for that show. And Tony Khan, in the press conference after it, said something really interesting. And that something was that a lot of the issues that people have had with storylines in AEW have come from people who aren't him. And the ideas that he heard, and he was like, I don't feel right about them, but the person who suggested them was such an influential person, right? So I'm presuming we're talking about, you know, the Jerry Lynns and stuff backstage, who have suggested a storyline. They felt strongly about it. He hasn't, but he was like, okay, I'll see how it goes. He's listened to them, and that's usually when he makes mistakes. And that's why in recent times he's kind of stuck to his own ways a bit more. And Ignacio, you might not like AEW right now, but a lot of fans are. A lot of fans are saying this is the best they've been in a few years now since Punk left. But secondly, another point I want to clear up here is, according to all reports which we have seen, including, I believe, the Wall Street Journal, AEW is profitable. Yes, it's not a public company, so we don't get to see all their numbers like we do with WWE. But according to what we've heard, they are profitable and have been, I think, since 2023. So it's not like he's losing all this money in it. It's not like he's just, you know, trying to do whatever to keep the company afloat. It is a business which is working. Of course, he spent a lot of money in the beginning. There's no denying that. But let's face it, businesses of that size, that is what has to happen. So to summarize, I am sending Cody Rhodes' AEW run for Wrestling Purgatory. Angie, you are the winner of today's Wrestling Heaven, Hell, and Purgatory. Congratulations.
Yeah, let's go.
It's a conspiracy. I told you it's a conspiracy.
What you mean? You better be lucky that I didn't decide to go for Gail Kim for the women's part of that. Because, oh boy, I would have mopped you for that one.
It could have been a clean sweep.
It could have been, but you know what? I'm still happy of the fact of this wonderful win. I am very honored to win my first Sunday fun day like this, especially against my rival Ignacio.
It's a conspiracy.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, it's okay. The golden era was nice for the time being. The attitude era was nice for the time being. But there's the one thing about wrestling that makes me proud to be a wrestling fan is the fact of us being able to move forward and be able to get to that glass ceiling and break right through it.
Well said. I love that. That is a great way to put it. Congratulations, Angie. And thank you to everybody in the comments throughout. We got DCX Warlord, the Atomic Merp, who was agreeing with Angie throughout on that one. DCX Warlord as well. Donnie is on Ignacio's side when it comes to Tony Khan, but ultimately, Angie is the winner today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you to Ignacio and Angie for joining me here today. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow for a little bit of Mailbag Monday. Have a good one, guys. Peace.